Big Freak from Empirical Labs is their digital recreation of the Little Freak hardware unit. Just how Empirical Labs' first plugin, the Arouser, took the distressor to another level, Big Freak follows the same path, taking full advantage of all the possibilities digital signal processing allows. Now let's get into it. Before we take a listen to what Big Freak can do, let's look at the interface. So right here at the top, we have our presets menu where we can copy and paste. We have the default menu, and then we also have this option over here that's really important. That lets us make it big or small, which is great. I wish they would have done the drag option, but that's cool either way. We have our high pass and our low pass filters at phase, plus our output. Now the cool part is we can click on here and we have all these different filters, but we can also control the Q. So if we enable this real fast, and let's say we do 96 because we want a steep filter, we can do some cool resonant slopes and automate some filters and stuff like that. So that's cool that we have that much flexibility. And we have the same thing over here on the low pass. Then we have a fixed shelf that's low, starts at about, what is that, like 800, and it's, you can see it gradually goes up, and the same thing happens over on the high shelf. We move this guy up, see that there. Then we have the magic sauce, which is the finisher, and it's at the end of the chain, and it's adding harmonic distortion, like a tape saturation to your signal. And you have oversampling right next to it, so you can ensure you're getting the best quality saturation. Then on Big Freak, we have 6 bands of EQ available. And what's really cool is we can see the ranges between 20 hertz and 20K. Right here at the top, you have your in and your out. Then you have your range. So right now you see you have between 0 and 15 decibels that you can push the signal. You hit range, now you have 0 to 30, so you're just doubling it. Then you select S for solo. It's just gonna let you listen to that frequency range in isolation. Next to your frequency, you have the focus mode. You can choose between 20 and 20K as you're dialing it in, but let's say you wanted to really fine tune this particular area, but you didn't want it to go so wide in range. When you hit focus mode, it centers the frequency, so you can move within a very conservative range. You can see right here 534 to 2K. Then we take that off, then we can go really wild. The best way to see this is actually bring it in. So without it, kind of wild, really hard to do sharp movements. You hit focus, all of a sudden you're getting really dialed in. Then next to the frequency is the copy and paste. Because all these frequency bands are the same from 20 hertz to 20K, if you want to maybe take this signal, copy it, and then go here and paste it, and then work in a similar range, but maybe fine tune it just a hair, you can do that with the copy and paste. Then we have our Q width. As you can see, we can make it really sharp, or we can make it wide. Another cool feature that Big Freak adds is slope control. So typically, let's say we were mixing some drums, right? And we were taking out frequencies, super sharp width on the Q, and let's go up to like 400 just heard, 387. Let's pretend right here, this is where we're at. Now, if you look really closely, you can see that, yeah, 490 is the center of the frequency, but we're taking frequencies out from like 1K and over here at around 300K. That's when the slopes are starting to take away frequency information. Let's say, you know, you really want to get in there, but there's stuff around there that still sounds good. You're just really trying to notch in this one frequency, and this is as tight as your Q is allowing you to go, right? What we can do with slope is it's going to adjust here at the bottom and here at the top where we're taking out frequencies, how steep that slope is, and really carve it out so we can really get in there so that we're not affecting anything around it. And if we were to make this a little bit wider, it goes to what's called a flat top type curve. So you have that flexibility. Not all EQs have this. Some more modern ones are finally starting to incorporate this. Simple enough. Now let's take a listen to see if we can even hear a difference between using slopes versus non-slopes and adding the finisher to an EQ as opposed to not using the finisher to an instance of EQ. So before I go over what I did on what, I've already automated the parameters, and we're just using a kick, a snare, overheads, a bass, and then I'm using it on like a master. I'm just gonna press play. Let's hear it for a second, and then we'll go through and look at everything, and then I'll play it again. All right, cool. Let's take a look at what I did. On the kick, here are the settings that I dialed in. You can see I'm taking advantage of the slope features when I'm cutting out the frequencies, and I have the finisher going in, and I'm adding just up to 3 on the harmonics. I'm not trying to get too crazy with it, and I do have oversampling on. Then on the same track, I bypassed that one during the second round. It's the exact same EQ settings. There's no difference besides taking off the finisher, and the slopes are all at just a regular 12 dB per octave. If we were to take out this one, you can see this one is sharp. Let's actually bring up the other one, and this one's more of a flat top. So that's the difference. Is this is how a normal EQ would behave and sound, whereas on here on this one we have the finisher and we're doing slopes. Now let's take a look at the snare EQ. This is with the slopes, and these are my settings without the slopes, and you can see right here, pretty straightforward to see the difference, and I can get away with 12 dB and then finisher on there. Go to overheads. All right, and same thing, the first one had slopes and the finisher, second one did not have slopes. Look look at the difference right here and how this wide EQ, it's starting to take things out at about 150 hertz and about 2-ish, a little bit over 2K. And then over here, we narrow down the slope. So it's only taking frequencies from about 300 and about 1K. Changing the slope is dramatically changing how much of those overhead frequencies I'm taking out. Take a look at the bass frequencies. So here is the bass. Again, you can see all the slopes have been adjusted to get smoother and more narrow. And then I have just the regular cues over here. And then lastly, what I did on the mix bus or the sum bus, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't too much, just a high pass, a little bit of a bell, brought in the shelf, brought in some of that tape saturation from finisher, then over here just took off finisher. Now you've seen all the settings. Let's take a listen one more time. So what I'm hearing with Big Freak EQ, the snare has a lot more body to it on the first instance, which is with our slopes and the finisher. And when the second instance comes in, we lose that same body from the snare, and also the kick doesn't sound as focused. Listen to it one more time. It's like with the finisher and the slopes, we're retaining a lot more of the characteristic of the drum shells that we're listening to and the bass characteristic, but then that tape saturation is coming in, it's adding a little bit more heft and weight to it. Overall, I'm really enjoying Big Freak EQ. The only two things I wish it had is, instead of this little icon right here to make things larger, I wish there was a way to just drag it like on some plugins. And there's no analyzer for the EQ, which I feel that in 2022, having an analyzer on an EQ plugin should just be a default thing that it should have. But let me know in the comments what you think, if you could hear the difference. And if you've gotten this far and enjoyed the video, do me a favor and boop that like button below for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.